You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning, it's November the 13th, and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. We're found at paceradio.net and 420pace.ca. Good morning, Rip Cindy. What are you doing today?
Good morning, Al. I am, I don't know. I feel like everything is, all the tech is messing up on me today. Like everything closed up on me earlier, and now I'm getting messages that are like, it seems like the messages have been sent, like when I was reading what distracted me before. It seems like the messages are like from 2 days ago, and it's like really, tech is just being really weird today. So if I all of a sudden disappear, I'll be back.
Yeah, okay. That's not the only thing messing up. When you opened up StreamYard this morning, all these new features, and there was 4 screens on the
And they started on you automatically. It's not like they give you a warning. It's just like, bam, here, make it look like you're looking through acid glasses. And I was just kind of like, what are you doing to me?
Well, they've got this thing called Mars now, which is this the way the screen's looking, it's actually allowing people or us to set up a choice to allow people to see us in the landscape, regular mode as you're seeing us on Facebook right now, or in portrait or real mode on YouTube and Facebook and the other social medias. But YouTube is allowing it to run both ways. So on YouTube, we're running as landscape and as well as a reel. So that was a bit of a mess up this morning, but we got it all straightened out. So,
We do.
all right. Other than that, what else is new?
Well, just the same old, same old. Monday night is my speech here in Halifax. So if you are in or around Halifax, come on down to the Halifax Regional Library for 6:30 p.m. We will be setting up, and I will be the next speaker in a speaker series we are doing. I'm really quite excited. I'm going to be speaking specifically about a few different medicines that I work with and how they are worked with and how they are used and what they are and what their benefits are. And I'm really nervous and very excited to be doing this. It will be live. We will be streaming it. And I believe Al is going to stream it on the network as well. So you can catch us virtually if you can't make it in person.
That's right. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
All righty. You ready to get started?
I am.
All right, here we go. Let's see how it turns up on the screen. Here we go. It's up.
Coming to us from Medical Press. Current cannabis blood concentrations used to identify impaired drivers could land innocent people in jail.
Yeah, I believe we both agree with that statement. A new study demonstrates that many regular cannabis users exceed legal blood cannabis limits for U.S. drivers despite showing no evidence of impairment. Now, the findings published in Clinical Chemistry contribute to evidence that cannabis blood limit laws lack scientific credibility and are not an accurate deterrent of when drivers should face criminal charges or not.
Previous research that evaluated the effect of THC, the main psychoactive compound in cannabis, on motor vehicle crashes concluded that there is no increase of crash risk because of detectable THC. Despite evidence showing no correlation between the detection of THC in the blood and driving impairment, 6 states in the United States have per se laws using 2 or 5 nanograms per milliliter of THC as the cutoff point for driving under the influence of cannabis, while 12 have a zero tolerance policy law.
These cutoff points are considered face value evidence of driving impairment, which means that even if it has been several days since an individual's last use of the cannabis and they show no behavior impairment, they may still face legal risks up to and including felony charges. Now, to address this issue, a team of researchers led by Dr. Thomas Marcotte, professor of psychiatry at the University of California, San Diego, and co-director of the Center for Medicinal Cannabis Research, set out to investigate the blood concentration of THC in regular cannabis users, as well as the simulated driving performance for participants who exceeded percent cutoff points compared to those who were below these values.
The researchers measured baseline concentrations of THC in 190 regular cannabis users after instructing participants to abstain from cannabis for at least 48 hours. Following abstination, the researchers also evaluated driving performance in this group using a driving simulator. From this, the team found many regular users of cannabis exceeded zero tolerance as the per se THC cutoff point concentrations days after their last use. Specifically, 43% of participants exceeded zero tolerance statute at baseline, while 24 had baseline blood THC concentrations that were greater or equal to the per se cutoff of the 2 nanograms per milliliter, and 5.3 had blood concentrations greater than or equal to the 5 nanograms per milliliter.
Now, based on the results from the driving simulation, participants with evaluated baseline concentrations of THC did no worse on a driving simulator compared to participants who were below per se cutoff points. Altogether, the results add to a growing body of evidence showing that current per se THC blood limit laws lack scientific credibility as face value evidence of impairment. Now, more work needs to be done to address how to best identify drivers who are under the influence of cannabis and are unsafe to drive, the study authors wrote. And they say that at present, the best protocol is a combination of observations in the field and toxicology testing.
They also added that an essential component of improving highway safety is collaborations between law enforcement and the scientific community to develop standards that are unbiased and potentially life-saving. As somebody who has been using medical cannabis for a few years, I know I don't like to drive if I'm too high.
Yeah.
It one of the things that cannabis does is it kind of stops you, me anyway. Like if I smoke a joint with friends, if I'm at a friend's place and we're consuming cannabis for the evening, I stop a couple hours before I go and get in the car, and drive, especially if I'm doing highway driving. It can be scary if you're high, straight up.
Yeah, last time we got together, you saw me. I had a cutoff date time. I had to drive home and all that.
Yep.
And you got this story. It also shows that even 2 days after you've consumed, you can still be charged with impaired driving. And the fact that you haven't even consumed any cannabis in 48 hours, like whoever gets stoned for 48 hours smoking a joint.
Yeah. I mean, no, edibles wouldn't even do that to you. It's just like, that's foolish. Now I do know people that are so sensitive to cannabis that they ate edibles and 2 days later were still feeling the effects of it. But that was a non-regular user, somebody that never used pretty much, and wanted to try it for pain and for sleep, emotional pain and for sleep. And they realized that, cannabis, if they were to use it, they have to go way lower and they were terrified to drive. I'm going to be honest. Like they didn't when we were on a trip and they did not want to get behind the wheel at all.
I've seen somebody, I know somebody who consumed just even 10 milligrams.
Yep.
And they said, "Oh, I can't drive." And I said, "Okay, I'll drive. No problem.
No problem."
Yeah.
So I'm excited for them to find a way to figure that out for themselves.
Yeah. Well, Glenn, our former reporter here, he tested positive a month later. Now, I don't think he was over the 5 nanograms, but he still tested positive.
Yep. Crazy.
Yeah, it is. Exactly. All righty. Here we go. On to the next story.
Oh, coming to us from CTIVA, I guess, psychedelics potential set to extend beyond mental health.
Psychedelics have a long and rich history in human culture, and archaeologists estimating that humans first started consuming psychoactive mushrooms more than 16,500 years ago. While their roots in culture and medicine are ancient, the pharmaceutical industry is looking to put a modern twist on these molecules to harness their therapeutic potential. The most common area of development for psychedelics is mental health, which has seen a broad range of therapies enter clinical trials across indications like post-traumatic stress, depression, and anxiety. This area has also caught the attention of big pharma, as AbbVie recently hedged its bets on Gigamish Pharmaceutical psychedelic medicine, Bretzlin, forking out $1.2 billion for the rights to the biotech's lead depression asset.
Meanwhile, Johnson & Johnson commercialized the first psychedelic adjacent medicine, Spravato, which is esketamine, for treatment-resistant depression, esketamine, in January of 2025, highlighting the agency's increasing openness to the therapeutic class. While psychedelics have shown promise across a diverse range of mental health conditions, researchers are increasingly highlighting the role that this medicine class in neurological and inflammatory conditions experts tell pharmaceutical technology, and it is amazing for both of those.
Yes. Though the full mechanism behind the psychedelic medicine class impact on cellular processes remains unknown, it is well established that these therapies bind to the 5-HT2A serotonin receptor. While these receptors are commonly found in the brain, they also appear on immune cells. This led Nicholas Barnes, CEO and founder of University of Bingham spin-out Cellentex, to question if psychedelic medicines could be used to treat immune cell-driven inflammatory disorders such as asthma while not causing a psychedelic response.
I like seeing the scientific community catch up. There's growing evidence to suggest that due to the difference in biochemical pathways associated with the hallucinogenic and anti-inflammatory responses triggered by psychedelics, we can develop molecules that exhibit the favorable impacts on inflammation without causing a psychedelic response. It's called microdosing. Barnes also sees potential for these medicines, which he calls PIPIs, psychedelic drug-informed but psychedelic experience inactive, in psychiatric and neurological disorders known to involve neuroinflammation. There is likely a subgroup of patients with depression and schizophrenia whose disease is driven by an inflammatory mechanism who may benefit from PIPI medicines, he says.
Now, according to Barnes, if these medications were to make it to market, they may be particularly useful for those with drug-resistant disease. Now, alongside their emerging role in inflammatory disease, psychedelics have been touted as a potential therapies for neurological conditions, such as notes Emmanuel Schneider, assistant professor of neurology at Yale School of Medicine.
When you look at molecules like psilocybin, LSD, or DMT, they are all almost identical to approved headache medications in terms of their chemical structure and pharmacological profile, Schindler says. These similarities prompted Schindler to explore the role of psilocybin in headache disorders, which she states is not a new area of focus for this medicine class. Patients have been taking low dose of psychedelics to manage their cluster headaches since the 1990s. Hallelujah. I'm one of them. After their efficacy was discovered by accident, she adds.
Now, ever since, Schindler notes that patients have been doing a lot of citizen science to determine best doses and regimes, information which she later used to conduct pilot studies on psilocybin in both cluster headaches and migraines. Though these small trials have shown some promising preliminary signals, Schindler cautions that no grand conclusions can be made from them. as large multi-center studies are required to confirm their accuracy in headache studies or headache disorders.
Mm-hmm. Schindler also stresses that the industry will have to further unpick the most appropriate dosing and treatment policies for headache disorders, which she believes will look very different to those used to treat mental health conditions. Meanwhile, Chris Witowski, who is the CEO and co-founder of Florida-based biotech Silera, noted that psychedelics have shown promise in neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's and dementia.
A small academy study using psilocybin in Parkinson's saw the medicine help with psychiatric symptoms, but also demonstrated an improvement in motor functions, which emphasizes the potential promise of such molecules in neurological disorders, he says.
Yes.
Now, while psychedelics have long been revered by their capacity to cause a trip, this trait is often unfavorable in clinical settings, notes Schindler. Now, he says that the hallucinogenic impact of psychedelics presents a challenge for both patients and clinicians, as these medicines have to be administered in a controlled environment.
For macrodoses, because we do have a microdose at home study happening right now, which is really
Correct.
cool.
Exactly.
Yeah. However, in the case of headache disorders, Schindler notes that psychedelic medicines are often, most effective at doses that do not provide hallucinogenic response. This means that in these disease types, psychedelics could be prescribed with reduced concerns around monitoring. Told you, microdosing. Meanwhile, Chris Witowski, who is the CEO and founder, as we said earlier, adds that non-hallucinogenic psychedelic analogs would fall better into gold standard double-blind placebo-controlled trials, as issues with functional unblinding are removed from the equation. In his eyes, this could make the development and commercialization of such medicines more straightforward.
Now, this type of psychedelic is already being explored in the clinic, as Dialex Therapeutics is currently looking to begin a phase 2 trial on its lead psychedelic asset, DLX-001, which recently got U.S. Food and Drug Administration approval for self-administration at home. There you go. While Witowski believes that non-hallucinogenic psychedelics will eventually become best in class, he foresees multiple approvals in the near term for first-generation iterations across various mental health indications.
Pardon me. This could soon come true for Compass Therapeutics' Prosperity Psilocybin formulation, COMP360, which met its primary endpoint in a phase 3 study in TRD, with the readout from a second trial set to debut in H2 2026. At-Eze Life Sciences Bufotine benzoate nasal spray could also be a contender for first psychedelic therapy approved, as it was recently awarded breakthrough therapy designation by the FDA. It's due to enter phase 3 trials in the first quarter of 2026.
Nasal spray, wow. Now, despite the observed potential for psychedelics across the pharmaceutical sector, there are some issues that must be addressed before this medicine can make it to the market. Now, Albert Garcia Romo, Assistant Director of the Johns Hopkins Center for Psychedelics and Consciousness Research, notes that the stigma and the taboo attached to psychedelics could complicate the path to market. He comments that it's currently unclear how ready patients are to use them and how doctors feel about prescribing them. Yeah.
Garcia Romeo also has concerns around the healthcare infrastructure needed for the wide-scale uptake of trip-inducing medicines due to the requirement of psychotherapy or counseling, or at minimum supervised medicine administration. He says that there is currently insufficient infrastructure for this kind of dosing regime, which makes it difficult to predict what the medicine class's uptake will look like. Garcia also raised concerns about the global regulatory understanding on psychedelics. Agencies are not typically keyed into how to effectively evaluate psychedelics, especially when applied alongside psychotherapies, he remarks.
Yeah, and despite the Food and Drug Administration's limited experience in psychedelic regulation, he believes that the agency does see promise in the class by saying that certain psychedelic therapies have been granted breakthrough therapy potential. So I think there is a very clear roadmap to follow to get these medicines approved.
Interesting.
Yes. Just keep
And
finding.
I love that they're looking at psychedelics for things like Parkinson's or Alzheimer's or dementia.
Yeah.
From what I've learned on psychedelics, and I know like a minuscule of what's out there. I mean, I'm no Paul Stamets for sure, right?
Right.
But mushrooms are are believed to help correct neural pathways. So if a neural pathway is broken, psychedelics, psilocybin goes in and it wants to repair that neural pathway. Now, if you can't repair that neural pathway, it says, okay, let's find another way to get the information across. And it creates a new neural pathway, which is why it helps for things like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's.
Mhm.
It also helps the inflammation go down. I missed last Thursday because of my pain that I was in. I did show up on Monday. I am still wearing this. I am in a lot of pain, but psilocybin helps to take that inflammation down. Like I take a little bit of psilocybin with a little bit of CBD, and it makes a huge difference. And this is something I've been playing with for years. I mean, not to mention I've been using it for headaches for like a similar
Mhm.
reason. It helps those pathways calm. And so it really is a beautiful medicine that can be used for more than just, feel good.
Yeah. And I like the fact that it mentions about autoimmune conditions. So
Yeah,
that'll help a lot. It can help a lot of people that way.
absolutely.
All right. Next
All
story.
right. Here we go. Coming to us from International Cannabis Business Conference, cannabis promotes improvements in chemotherapy patients.
Cancer is one of the saddest and most painful things that a patient and their loved ones will ever have to battle. I have personally lost several loved ones in recent years after they battled cancer, and it was heartbreaking to watch from start to finish. The loss of a loved one to cancer is something that I wouldn't wish on anyone. Now, according to cancer statistics, they say that in 2022, there were an estimated 20 million new cancer cases and 9.7 million deaths, according to the World Health Organization. They said the estimated number of people who were alive within 5 years following cancer diagnosis was 53.5 million. About 1 in 5 people develop cancer in their lifetime. Approximately 1 in 9 men and 1 in 12 would die from the disease.
Wow. A common treatment for cancer is chemotherapy. Chemotherapy involves the use of powerful anti-cancer drugs in an effort to destroy cancer cells and prevent them from multiplying. The treatment comes with several potential side effects, including neuropathic pain. Investigators based in Israel and affiliated with various health research institutions recently examined the use of medical cannabis therapies and chemotherapy-induced peripheral neuropathic pain, CIPN. The researchers' findings were published in the Academy Journal Biomedicines.
Now, of the 1,493 patients, 802 reported at least one CIPN symptom at baseline, including a burning sensation, cold sensation, paresthesis, which is the prickling, and numbness, and 751 of them met the study inclusion criteria. Patients were categorized into THC high, CBD low, as well as CBD high, THC low groups, according to what the researchers stated about their methodology. Now, symptom changes after 6 months of cannabis use were analyzed using k-means clustering and logistic regression, incorporating interactions between baseline symptoms and THC and CBD doses. Linear regression assessed changes in activities of daily living and quality of life. Both groups reported symptom improvements. The THC high group showed a significantly greater improvement in burning sensation and cold sensation. Improvements in ADL and QOL were also significantly higher in the THC group. A significant interaction between THC and CBD was observed for symptom improvements, the researchers found.
Cannabis effectively reduces CIPN symptoms and improves the quality of life in ADL. Higher THC doses were more effective than lower doses, with combined CBD and THC doses yielding greater symptom relief. Absolutely. I think that is something that as the cannabis community, we've been screaming for years.
Yeah, exactly. And it's nice that, like you said, science is catching up.
It is. It's beautiful to see.
Yeah, exactly.
It's and whether it's with cannabis, I mean, like, this is something that other people have proven, but I don't think we've ever read it in that such way from a study.
Correct. Yeah.
And so it's really, it's nice to see them compare what the different cannabinoids are doing and, which way is helping better, because, of course, doctors these days want to push CBD. They don't want that psychoactive, thing out there. I like that this study is showing unbiased what helped best. And, as something that we've known for years, again, like, I mean, THC fights all that better than anything else. High THC. Now they need the other cannabinoids to work properly, but it's having that high THC that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and in the earlier story about the psychedelics, they talked about patients being concerned about getting too high, and that was the same concern with cannabis as well.
Yep. And again, like, the cannabis community and the psychedelic community is adopting it. What would you rather be? A little bit too high or dead?
Yeah,
I would rather take a little bit too high. Like, would you rather be, sitting in fear or go through a little bit of too high for 8 hours?
Right.
Right. Like, like, if we balance it out and think of it, they're like, I mean, like, that little bit of what people think is too high, maybe it's a benefit. And studies like this are showing that, it can be of benefit, because I'm sure that it's not just the medicine in there doing stuff. It's the fact that the THC is coming in and taking that anxiety down.
Yeah. All righty. Time for us to go to our last story before we go to break.
Yes, I love the way you tell me to be quiet, Al. Coming to us from neurosciencenews.com. Psychedelics calm stress circuits to reduce alcohol drinking.
Oh, nice. Okay, there's some key facts here. I'm going to scroll on past the key facts and get down to the wording. It says a psychedelic found in mushrooms is emerging as a potential treatment for alcohol use disorders. This potentially is due to a compound that the body converts the psychedelic into called psilocin. But psilocin's mechanisms remain unclear.
Researchers led by Sarah McGee and Melissa Herman at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill explored whether psilocin targets neurons in the central amygdala involved in emotional processing and stress to alter alcohol use in their Journal of Neuroscience paper. Herman emphasizes that preclinical work like this is necessary for filling gaps in knowledge about the drug mechanisms, especially in the field of psychedelic research.
Focusing on female mice because they drink more alcohol than male mice. Oh, really? The researchers discovered that psilocin dampened the activity of these neurons following the long-term alcohol exposure. This decrease in activity was associated with less alcohol drinking during drug exposure, though drinking was restored in later sessions.
Interesting. These observations also occurred in mice with less severe alcohol exposure, supporting clinical work showing that psychedelics may help improve issues with emotional processing and stress across a range of psychiatric disorders. According to the researchers, these findings may shape interpretations of clinical studies on psychedelic treatments.
Elaborating on their findings, says Herman, it makes sense that dampening this neuron population reduces drinking because increased activity in these neurons is associated with alcohol use disorder. It goes on to say that these neurons also play a role in depression and anxiety, which psychedelics are also showing promise at treating. So our work provides some mechanism insight in those contexts too.
We've got some key questions answered here, which
Yeah.
I read the first one. I thought it was kind of interesting.
let's go
What
through
were the main findings of the study? They found that psilocin, which is what the body converts psilocybin into, dampened hyperactive neurons after long-term alcohol exposure, which briefly reduced drinking in female mice. The next question was, did psilocin work across different alcohol exposure levels? And yes, similar effects appeared in mice with less severe alcohol exposure.
What does this suggest for psychedelic therapies for alcohol use disorders? The findings give mechanist insight into how psychedelics may help regulate stress circuits across multiple psychedelic conditions.
Mm.
All right. I think that's it. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Yeah. Again, like, I mean, this is like, you know, we have, and not necessarily we, I mean, my studies into into psilocybin are very, very small. But it's nice to see that modern science is catching up with the millennia of psilocybin. Like, I mean, we read that, you know, they have found people using psilocybin dating back over 16,000 years, you know, for really good reasons. And, you know, it's nice to see science catching up to that.
Exactly. All right, time for us to take a break and for you to hear from our sponsors. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. We're live here at paceradio.net and 420pace.ca.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, open Monday to Friday from 10 till 7 p.m. or by chance. Check out our flags, our t-shirts, plus our hats, and look of that supply of rolling papers, plus much more. We've got bongs and your favorite herbal vaporizers. Look at all the incense we have, as well as for those who collect knives, check out these knives in our collection. And while you're here, stop in to see Shay at the piercing room, where you can get poked by Shay. Daily deals, check them out. Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford, Ontario. Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. Rerolled Saturdays. Check it out. Nothing but non-stop cannabis and psychedelic programming. Find it at 420pace.ca.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Hey, welcome back. We got some more news for you. 4 more stories to go. So what do you say? I have to get it ready. I was too busy checking something out during the break.
Me too. That's why I was, smiling when we came back. It's like, yes, I'm back.
I was looking at YouTube to see how things were playing there. I wanted to check that out. So, okay, here we go. We got it all lined up now.
Coming to us from Marijuana Moment. Trump signs bill to recriminalize hemp THC products. years after approving their legalization.
President Donald Trump has signed a spending bill that includes provisions to ban most consumable hemp products. Following a historic week-long government shutdown, the Senate approved the appropriations package on Monday to fund critical agencies. The House of Representatives followed suit on Wednesday, voting 222 to 209 to pass the bill.
Tucked inside the legislation is a controversial section to recriminalize hemp products containing THC that have proliferated since the crop was legalized under the 2018 Farm Bill that Trump signed during his first term in office. The president's latest action reverses that move. Representative Andy Harris, who championed the prohibition in the House, said on the floor ahead of the vote that the provision closes the hemp loophole that has resulted in the spread of unregulated, intoxicating hemp-derived products that are being sold online and in gas stations and corner stores across the country.
Many of these products are accessible and attractive to children, he argued. Hemp advocates have said, however, that the ban will apply even to non-intoxicating CBD products that people use for medical purposes.
Yeah, while the hemp ban is only one component of the proposal, a White House spokesperson said on Monday that the president supports the specific language. There were attempts by GOP lawmakers in both chambers to strike the hemp prohibition provision, but the proposed amendments from Senator Rand Paul and Thomas Massey did not make it into the final package.
That said, the bill as drafted makes it so the hemp provisions won't be implemented until 1 year after implement. Stakeholders and certain lawmakers, such as Senator Chris Van Hollen, says the window could provide an opportunity to advance legislation to create an alternative regulatory model for consumable hemp products.
Yeah, well, yeah. Jim Higdon, co-founder of the company Cornbread Hemp, told Marijuana Moment this week that industry advocates will work to do just that. We can get the bill through Congress next year before the 365-day deadline, he said, and it's time for everybody to come together and focus on what we can get passed in Congress to remediate the worst of it.
On the Senate side, Paul was joined by 22 Democrats and notably anti-cannabis Senator Ted Cruz in voting against a motion to table the amendment to prevent the ban, but the majority ultimately squashed it. Now, Massey tried to revive the push in the House with his own amendment mirroring Paul's, but the prospects of its adoption were dubious at best, as there was general consensus within the Republican caucus that the spending bill should advance without further modifications that could have sent it back to the Senate.
Since 2018, cannabis products have been considered legal hemp if they contain less than 0.3% Delta-9 THC on a dry weight basis. The new legislation specifies that within 1 year of enactment, the weight will apply to total THC, including Delta-8 and other isomers. It will also include any other cannabinoids that have similar effects or are marketed to have similar effects on humans or animals as THC, as a THC, determined by the Secretary of Health and Human Services.
Now, the new definition of legal hemp will additionally ban any intermediate hemp-derived cannabinoid products which are marked or sold as a final product or directly to an end consumer for personal or household use, as well as products containing cannabinoids that are synthesized or manufactured outside of the cannabis plant or not capable of being naturally produced by it. Now, legal hemp products will be limited to a total of 0.4 milligrams per container of total THC or any other cannabinoids with similar effects.
Within 90 days of the bill's enactment, the Food and Drug Administration and other agencies will need to publish need to publish a list of all cannabinoids known to the FDA to be capable of being naturally produced by a cannabis sativa plant, as reflected in peer-reviewed literature. All THC class cannabinoids known to the agency to be naturally occurring in the plant, and all other known cannabinoids with similar effects to or marketed to have similar effects to THC class cannabinoids. The language slightly differs from provisions included in legislation that had previously advanced out of the House and Senate Appropriations Panel, which would have banned products containing any quantifiable amount of THC to be determined by the HHS Secretary and Secretary of Agriculture.
Meanwhile, advocates are sharply criticizing congressional leaders for advancing the spending bill ahead of Veterans Day on Tuesday that also omits bipartisan provisions allowing the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs doctors to recommend medical cannabis to patients in states where it's legal, even though the policy was approved by the full Senate and House earlier this year. Well, there you go. That updates everybody on what's going on down in the U.S. when it comes to the Delta-8 THC products. So. All right, moving on to the next report that we got. Ready?
Ready.
There we go.
Coming to us from Medical Express, LSD microdosing reduces depression scores without major side effects, clinical trial finds.
University of Auckland researchers report that an 8-week, twice-weekly LSD microdosing regime for major depression disorder was feasible and well tolerated with Montgomery-Åsberg depression rating system scores reduced by 59.5% at the end of the treatment and sustained to 6 months. Major depression disorder affects about 5% of the global population, and existing antidepressants can have slow onset, variable tolerability, side effects, and show limited efficacy for many patients. Interest in classic serotonergic psychedelics as potential treatments for depression and related conditions has been increasing.
Absolutely. Previous controlled work describes acute mood and energy changes from LSD microdoses in healthy volunteers and notes user-led microdosing practices at levels below substantial alterations in consciousness. Safety questions have included anxiety or overstimulation and theoretical risk of heart valve disease linked to 5-HT2B receptor activity. In the study, LSD microdosing in a major depressive disorder results from an open label trial published in Neuropharmacology. Researchers conducted a phase 2 open label investigation to evaluate tolerability and feasibility for a phase 2B randomized control trial. Objectives also included descriptive changes in depression severity and other mental health outcomes, along with cardiac safety, including echocardiography and electrocardiography.
A total of 19 participants enrolled and received the intervention. The mean age was 41 and a half years old. 15 participants were male. Baseline MADRS averaged 23.7 with SD 6.72, indicating moderate depression. 15 participants were taking antidepressants at entry, including SSRIs in 10, SNRIs in 2, Tetralex in 2, and 1 taking both an SNRI and the Tetralex. Now, tolerability was defined by withdrawal due to adverse events. Feasibility was defined by abstinence in scheduled clinical visits. Safety assessments included adverse events, laboratory tests, 12 lead ECGs, and transthoracic echocardiography before and after the intervention.
Depression was assessed with the clinician-rated MADRS at baseline, weeks 2, 4, 6, and 8, with follow-ups at 1, 3, and 6 months. Additional measures included a whole bunch of tests that they describe with letters at baseline and at week 8. Participants took 16 sublingual doses over 8 weeks, beginning with an 8 UG in the clinic, then 6 to 20 UG at home twice weekly, with titration guided by a study app capturing end-of-day subjective effects. Instructions ask participants to avoid potentially risky activities for 6 hours post-dose and to refrain from dosing after 2 p.m. to limit sleep disruption.
A custom smartphone app supported compliance, activity prompts on dosing days, and dose response reporting. Video logs verified administration. 2 participants discontinued for reasons unrelated to the trial, and 1 withdrew due to anxiety on dosing days. The mean titrated dose was 14.6 units with a range from 6 to 20. A total of 342 doses were taken, with 319 self-administered at home and verified, indicating 100% compliance with home dosing.
Adverse events did not include any serious or severe cases. Headaches were most common on dosing days, reported 3 times across 2 participants. Anxiety leading to withdrawal occurred at 6 UG in a participant with high baseline anxiety, and symptoms resolved after withdrawal. Echocardiography before and after the intervention was completed by 15 participants in the main phase, with 4 continuing into an extension for a total of 32 doses over 16 weeks. No clinical significant echocardiograph abnormalities were identified by the end of the treatment.
ECG readings that reflect how long the heart's electrical system takes to recharge between beats were 408 ms at screening and 408 at the end of the main phase, and 413 at the extension measure. 1 participant recorded a QTC of 460 at the measure visit with a baseline value of 434. All measures moved in directions consistent with improvement at the end of treatment. Baseline MARDS averaged 23.7. End of the treatment, MADRS averaged 9.59, a 59% reduction. 9 participants met criteria for remission and clinical response at the end of treatment.
HAM-A decreased by 51.9%, indicating less anxiety. DASS subscales decreased for stress, so this was a stress, by 34.9, anxiety by 59.1, and depression by 40.6. Those are beautiful numbers. Enumeration decreased by 14.7% on the RRS, with fewer repetitive problem-focused thoughts. Yay! DARS scores increased by 14.8%, and this signals a greater ability to experience interest and pleasure.
Now, the whole bunch of letters, their scores increased across physical, psychological, social, and environmental domains, as well as overall quality of life and general health, a sign of broad gains in perceived quality of life. Now, the findings support the feasibility of home-based titrated LSD microdosing in moderate depression under clinical oversight. Safety monitoring identified no clinically significant changes.
Yeah. Authors describe preliminary antidepressant signals and improvements across related measures. Plans to follow up with a phase 2B randomized controlled trial are noted to evaluate the superiority, I love it, of LSD versus placebo as a continuation of this program. They already know where it's going, and it's superior. That's really, like, I mean, like, that kind of stuff. I love, you know, like, I don't want science to come in and make everything chemically, but I love that people are coming in, and, like, I know LSD is a chemical, but, like, you know, I love that they're coming in, and what they're doing is they're experimenting with the psychedelics that we have known and loved for years. And to do that versus, you know, like, some of these places have made what's called 4-ACO-DMT, which is just chemical psilocybin. I like seeing them do the work with the substances that we have known and used for millennia, or for even a couple 100 years or 100 years, you know, depending on which substance we're talking about. So I think it's really cool that they've done that. We see them. This is the second at-home study we've talked about, because we talked about one with psilocybin where they're using the whole plant as well.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, next story.
Coming to us from Hemp Gazette, survey of UK medical cannabis patients published.
A recently released UK medical cannabis survey report indicate patients are generally benefiting from prescribed products. In what it claims was the largest ever survey of prescribed medical cannabis patients, Relief UK gathered insights from 1,669 respondents across the UK.
First off, it should be noted that Relief is a London-based medical cannabis online clinic licensed to prescribe and dispense. So the firm has significant skin in the game. Relief claims to have 100,000 patients on their books, a huge number given the company has only been around since 2022. I don't think it's that huge, to be honest. Moving on, the survey found 97% of patients reported improved quality of life, and 65% significantly. 78% rated treatment as highly effective. 88% reported no side effects. 91% reported would recommend medical cannabis to others.
Now, the proportion of preliminary conditions being treated included 47.5% for chronic pain, 31% for mental health conditions, 10% for neurological conditions, and 6% for sleep disorder. 72% of patients who took the survey were managing more than a single condition.
The least common condition type, both primary and secondary, were cancer-related, followed by gastrointestinal, and then women's health, showing that the stigma of medical cannabis may be wrong, may be waning. 97% of those surveyed said they had told others that they use it. However, 20% said they had experienced stigma since becoming a patient, indicating there's more work to do there.
As for the types of medicine used, 90% had been prescribed flower, 50% oil, and almost half vape cartridges. In terms of driving habits, 51.4% avoided doing so if they used their medication earlier the same day, while 40% drive regularly as long as they feel unimpaired and safe.
The age spread of respondents, 56% are between 35 and 54. Over 55 is 25%, and under 35 is 19%. You can find more key findings if you find this article and then click this link.
There you go.
Yeah.
All righty. Good. The only thing I didn't really see in that report was, from what I'm seeing going on in the UK, is access for the patients.
Yeah.
All that stuff sounded good, but the only thing I was worried about in the end is access.
Yeah, well, they were saying that the place that did this survey with their 100,000 patients, they prescribe and dispense, so they have access. Their patients have access through that. Would be the understanding.
Yeah,
which is good, but I mean.
Yeah, I'm looking at it for general overall, because I always get the stories, especially about the children.
Yep.
That are having problems with access. All right. Last story of the day. Here we go.
Yes, coming to us from Business of Cannabis. Is Portugal about to lose its position as the gateway to Europe's largest cannabis market?
Maybe. Over the last 5 years, Portugal has built a reputation as the medicinal cannabis doorway to Europe, the go-to hub for countries from North and South America, Asia, and Oceania to ship their cannabis to and have it distributed to Europe's most active markets. Although it is now the largest exporter of medical cannabis in Europe, a fraction of the cannabis grown, processed, or imported into Portugal goes towards its highly restrictive domestic market, which, according to Prohibition Partners, is set to be worth just 280,000 euros this year.
The latest figures show that between January and August of 2025, Portugal exported more medical cannabis than the entirety of 2024, driven almost entirely by Germany's demand and Canada's supply. Despite these runaway growth figures, behind the scenes, Portugal's dominance as the de facto gateway into Europe is beginning to deteriorate.
Yeah, according to Arthur de Cordova, the CEO and co-founder of Zeal, this is due to two key factors: market pricing and self-inflicted wounds. Since implementing its medicinal cannabis framework in 2018, Portugal has built one of the most commercially accessible regulatory environments in Europe.
Under ministerial order of 83-2021, companies are permitted to cultivate, manufacture, import, and export cannabis products for medical use, provided they demonstrate compliance with both good agriculture and collection practices and good manufacturing practices standards. Aside from its relatively low cost, geographical location, and temperature climate, these regulations have allowed it to serve as a GMP compliance and re-export hub for cannabis product produced elsewhere.
Given the time and capex required to build out EU GMP processing facilities, many businesses outside Europe operate under CP or GACP rather than GMP standards, meaning their products cannot enter tightly regulated European markets directly. Portuguese contracting manufacturing organizations bridge that gap by importing raw or semi-processed material, carrying out additional processing or decontamination under GMP certified conditions, adding a layer of compliance, enabling these products to be then re-exported to EU markets.
Decontaminating it.
Yeah.
As Cordova explained, to business of cannabis, Portugal has been the gateway into Germany and the UK, and to a lesser degree, Poland. It has been a conduit where GACP growers, whether in Portugal or other countries outside Europe, predominantly Canada, Colombia, or Thailand, have used Portuguese CMOs, or what are colloquially known as GMP washers.
This dynamic has been supercharged by the rapid rate of growth in the German market, and that with exports from Portugal in the first 6 months of this year topping 27,000 kgs, around 80% of the total, up from 46% in 2024.
Yeah.
Well, there is more down here. Okay, I gotta watch my time. So
yeah.
Let's
Yep.
cover.
Do you want to go on, or do you want to?
We'll cover another paragraph or two, and then we'll shut her down. So
okay, this dynamic, which has proven lucrative for the half-dozen EU GMP processing facilities operating in Portugal, while the European market flourished, is now being challenged. One key reason is pricing. Cordova continued, German wholesalers will pay roughly €3 per gram. They don't care whether it comes via Portugal or directly from a GMP facility in Canada, as long as it meets compliance.
There you go. All righty. Yep, I got to finish that off. I think I can hear my man outside the door there, so I want to make sure I get time and get out there. So I have somebody showing up right at the end of the show. So.
And I'm heading off for a tattoo right at the end of the show.
Oh yeah, all right, yeah. I can hear a truck moving around outside, so I should get up there. All right, anything else before we go?
I think that's about it. Have a great weekend.
Monday
night at the Halifax Regional Library in the BMO room, 6:30 p.m.
All right, that's the news for today. We hope you found it educational and informative. Thanks to the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, At-Eze.ca, Limestone City Hydroponics .ca, and to our viewers, you can catch our next report Monday at 10 a.m. Other than that, don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.